Hey guys, DibtheAwesome here to give you another Monster Legends Guides, where we talk about monsters' moves, rune sets, partners, all that jazz. Today we're talking about Pigredo, the second legendary monster you may obtain during the Seven Deadly Sins event. I'm just saying that because it's in order of, the monsters of which you can obtain, and all that jazz. Pigredo is basically the free path monster in terms of you don't have to gather any keys for him, you just have to find him in the maze. And how you do that is you move the spider monster. That's the spider epic monster. That's all you have to do. That's literally all you have to do is move it until you see the monster. Then you can play the path. No key is required to play him. You just have to find him. And personally, between Pigredo and Vanitas, these are considered the only competitively viable ones between rabies and every between all the new legendary monsters. These two are the only competitively viable by the community in terms of like what what the community deems competitively viable and all that jazz. Sorry, that was was that? That's probably my phone. Just notifications. So yeah, what is Pig? We're gonna get to what Pigredo actually does, but I just want to say he's one. He might be the. I can't know. I don't know. Or I don't remember if he's the first one, but he is immune to possession in terms of Earth monsters. He might be the first immunity to possession for in terms of Earth monsters. So that's actually pretty good. This thing is pretty valid in wars that require possession, or people like the main deny is possession. So this thing is very valuable in those terms. Is it bad that he's not immune to stun? It kind of is, but in all honesty, in all perfect honesty, I think that's all right because stun can't be chain denied. You can chain possess. That's in all honesty, between being possessed and or stun, I find possession more because you can chain possess. You can't chain stun, so that's. In all honesty, this guy doesn't care if he's stunned. In all honesty, you can stun this guy. You can beat him up next turn. But he won't care. He has recovery. He really doesn't care if he's stunned. In all honesty, he has between the time unless it's a very heavy hit. In all honesty, unless you do like double damage, he's not gonna care. In all honesty, Pigredo won't care if you stun him. And it goes to the next turn. He can use a recovery. He's got 2 recovery moves. It's pretty valid, and he has some pretty strong, unique powers that was only once capable for a very specific monster, but we'll get to that when we mention it. So for power, 3,432. This is a pretty awesome power, pretty respectable. This guy represents sloth or laziness, and he hits hard. When he moves, he moves. If you make this guy move, this guy doesn't like moving. So when he gets up, he's really angry. He is gonna hit something really hard. He does not like moving, and it's kind of like the slacking. If you've ever played Pokemon, and you know that Pokemon called slacking, yeah, it's the slacking of this game. If he moves, something gets rolled over. It does not like getting up, and when it does get up, it's serious. It is seriously mad at that point. It's like, no, don't you get me up now. Oh, I'm gonna get up. Don't make me get up. uh, yeah, that's how strong this thing hits. His life is 31,969. This is a pretty tanky life. It's very, it's not going to tip over, in all honesty, unless it's, like, very effective damage. Especially if you're not earning any, if the enemy's not earning any damage runes or, it gets hit by something like that, it's not going to care too much, at least not for a while, unless it's repeatedly hit. But, in all honesty, yeah, he can take a few natural blows. He doesn't really care. And he also has recovery to back that up. In all honesty, you could put a life rune on this thing. A life rune is valuable, or valid. I mean, not valuable, valid. You may put a life rune on it, and it works just as fine. Speed is 3,223. In all perfect honesty, this is the one thing that people are bothered by. Is the only reason why people don't really like this thing. It's because it's slow, and I think that's a silly thing. That's a silly thing to just because it's slow. It's not you. In all honesty, between you and me. I'd run 2 speedruns with it. Anyways, so it doesn't matter. You'll see why later, but just for now, the stat is slow. And honestly, this is a slow monster, but you would normally run to a speed. You would run 2 speedruns anyway on it. And it's weird, it's because it's an attacker, right? So Dave Boy was saying 2 speeds and strength. You're gonna understand later, right? But for now, don't be bothered by the speed stat. In all perfect honesty, don't be bothered by the speed stat unless you're already you're above middle class in terms of the competitive scene. When you ascended to total tomfoolery where every monster is ranked up and they're tanked up on speedruns, then don't bother with this thing. But if don't bother. Well, first off, don't bother with this thing, or feel free to be bothered by it. But if you're like new, or like in the new class or middle class, this thing's you don't need to worry about the speed stat. You only have to worry about it when every single person's running ranked up monsters with speedruns. That's basically the only time you probably can't use this thing, or just in a situation in a fight where everything's ranked up. That's the only time you really couldn't use this thing. But again, you don't have to worry about it. If you're new to middle class in terms of the competitive scene, you're fine. You're all good. Its trait is immune to possession. This is helpful due to the fact it doesn't. Well, one, it's always gonna command. It's always gonna be in your command, which is pretty awesome. So you don't have to worry about it attacking itself or where its allies, because it's always going to be under your control in terms of just in the terms of that stat. When you're possessed, the monster attacks your allies. That's just how it works. With this trait, it prevents them from doing that, so it's pretty great. It's great to put it in a Magic Wars on a defensive team. The only problem is if you're fighting ranked up Atum, it's not going to go well for you. If you're fighting a ranked up Atum, it's a denying Tomb, they run full speed runes on it, or they AoE stun. That's obviously not an ideal situation, but it's great for just magic deniers. Magic deniers just possess. Most of them do. The only, in all honesty, in terms of magic deniers, the only ones that don't really deny in form of their deny, they don't really possess, but they more so just stun or freeze, which is Pixel Lion and or Udu. So honestly, you're fine there. I'm sure there are other monsters that do some form. Some other magic monsters does another form of AoE deny that's not possession, but that's the ones that I think up at the top of my head right now. So its ultimate, someone else can do it. Deals insane earth damage, 90 damage, 0 turn cooldown, 0 stamina. It's his ultimate, 120 accuracy. It's a pretty accurate move. Personally, this move isn't all that great. Single target. You won't be running 2 strength runes on this thing unless you desire to. Then this thing will do considerable damage to a single target. But in all honesty, it's not too great of a move or ultimate, I would say. Just thinking about all the situations in war, you basically just use this on something that's not Earth monster, and it'll do a decent chunk. But if you're not running 2 strength runes, it just doesn't do a whole lot. I will mention one move in skill groups 1. I'll do it later. It deals low special damage, 50% chance of activating all cooldowns on the enemy's skills. I'm pretty sure this is a single enemy, because you see the quotation, it's before the S. It doesn't mean multiple. It means this, single person. So it when you use this move, you have a 50% chance to set all the cooldowns for a specific monster. Now, the only monster capable, or has been capable, of resetting the cooldowns of monsters is Timeron. This is the first monster beyond Timeron that's capable of resetting the cooldowns of the enemy's moves. Resetting cooldowns on enemies' moves is actually pretty huge. It's not valid against things like Fenrir, Atum, or Jabeline, in all honesty, or Discopolis too. All those monsters with 0 turn cooldowns abilities. I know there's more than that, but you get my point. Those are just examples of monsters with 0 turn cooldown moves. But basically, you are pretty much shutting down all deny options for that monster, or supporting moves. Let's say you're fighting an Atum, you deny the Atum, and then you do I'll do it later and or I'll do it tomorrow, which is pretty much the advanced move. It's the for sure reset on all moves. The Atum can't use its double life shields. It can't use its you can't use the AoE stun. You can't use hard as a rock. It's just denied to him. In all honesty, you reset all the cooldowns. All he could do at that point then is just hit you with his mace. And by the time those cooldowns are done, the AI has to recharge again, because he's just took the time to hit you. And in all honesty, unless that Atum is really high in level, or you're just really running a really high strength rune and you're not running any life rune, then that's kind of a bad situation for you. But in all honesty, this guy can stomach damage. He doesn't really care all that much. As long as it's not a super effective, it's really heavy damage, he can heal it off. He doesn't care all that much. But this is actually I find this pretty huge. people like really love this. This is the best thing that they like about it is the fact you can reset an enemy's cooldowns. The again back to the main problem with it, it's naturally slow, so people probably won't really like this thing all that much in terms of using it all the time. But I personally, I bet you would enjoy it if you either built it 2 speeds and a life, or no, that's like an either or situation. But yeah, you do 2 speeds and then your choice of a life rune or a strength rune. Personally, I think you'll enjoy this monster way more if you do run the second speed rune on it. It'll just be better for you. You can keep the damage dealers from doing their setup or an AoE of any sorts. So you can just keep AoE damage off the whole game. It's kind of tricky to do, but it works when it works. I don't know how good this thing is in terms of securing 3 coins, but you obviously don't want to bring this to an uncommon to common war. If anything, you want to bring it up to rare wars where you have your rares ranked up and they're not brittle. You have life runes on them. Epic wars where you're not running brittle epics, and just legendary wars. Those are the 3 kinds of wars you can bring this thing to. But anyway, yeah, resetting the cooldowns is again huge. You protect yourself from the AoE deny, and you take away the enemy's supporting moves. That's really huge in all honesty, depending on the situation. It's usually a 2v2 situation, but it's it helps. And again, it helps. Keeps your monsters alive. That's all it does. This is just this one in particular, this move in particular, you run it for fun if you want to. You do totally run I'll do it tomorrow, but if you wanted to do this for the memes, you could run this too on a defensive one. Or if you put this thing on defense, you could run this move too if you so wished. It's not the most heavy move in the game, but if you just want to troll someone, if you're just in the mood to troll something, you can feel free to do it. If you do this, if you actually land this, I'll do it tomorrow. Do it later, and I'll do it tomorrow. It's ridiculous. You're gonna piss somebody off, especially if he hits it on 2 different monsters. That's funny. Do it for me. Deals moderate earth damage, heals by 20%, requires a cooldown of 2 turns, 27 stamina, 40 damage. Personally, you use this on use it on a tanky set. You use it on a set where you don't plan on winning right away. You're more so going for a long game. And hopefully it works out for you. This works great with 2 speeds and life rune. I will say the scaling, life runes increase the scaling of regeneration. So if you put a life rune on this thing, a really great one, like a really good, you're going to be running those speed runes. If you put a level 9 speed rune, it's going to be pretty decent life recovery for you. Pretty decent. I thought you would. Deals moderate earth damage. My dazed target requires a cooldown of a single turn, 28 stamina, and 45 damage. The point of this move is it dazes. You basically make the enemy do less damage to you. That's the main goal of this move anyway. You can pretty much use this. In all honesty, this move is usable because, in all honesty, the enemy defensive monsters are going to be either immune to stun, or it's going to be a tomb that's immune to 35% chance not to get hit by anything. But most of the time, it's usually just immune to stun, and the other monster's probably just going to be immune to possession, or immune to freeze, or immune to poison, depending on the element of war. There's not many monsters that are immune to daze, in all honesty. Well, there probably are, but they're not in terms of war. In terms of a defensive war team, so this is a valid move. You can run this if you want. It's meant for a tanky set. If you just wanted to run a tanky set, just keep in mind the game's going to take a while. If you do a tanky set, yeah. But this is again, it's mainly meant for a tanky set. Tanky Pigredo. I'll do it tomorrow. Deals moderate special damage, activates all cooldowns on the enemy's skills, requires a cooldown of 2 turns. Same cooldown as I'll do it later. 28 stamina, 35 damage. Does it blow that it only does 35 damage? Yes. Is this guy an attacker? Yes. So why are you running a 35 damage move on it? Because of how strong the effect is. You pretty much reset all the cooldowns on the enemy. So basically, if you use this move on the attacker, this attacker specifically, some attackers run 3-turn cooldown moves, and you use this on the enemy monster, essentially you just win. Unless they're running all they can do at this point is just use a spammable move if they so have chosen on it, on a defensive monster. You can literally do some huge damage to the enemy team if you use this move on something that runs all cooldowns. If it's just a monster that doesn't have a single spammable move, if it's a denier with no spammable move, you essentially just take out one of the hugest monsters in their game, and it just doesn't do anything for the rest of the game. It's essentially just freezing them or mega stunning them forever how long their cooldowns are. So if you're fighting something with really heavy cooldowns, this is pretty relevant of a move. If anything, it keeps people from stalling you out, like specifically in a tomb fights where tombs can do AoE shielding. If you freeze the enemy a tomb and you do use this move on him, he can't use his AoE shield at this point. He's just unable to do it. It's pretty huge if this thing actually lands. I mean, well, it's a 100% chance too. So you pretty much control the game. You pretty much take care of the thing that's the most troublesome in terms of moveset, and you're okay. You're good to go. People can argue that, like, most of the time Earth monsters are tanky. True, but if they can't do their shielding, they're even less tanky. Trust me, it's irrelevant. This move is relevant. You totally need to run this move. It's the monster's signature move, even if it does low damage. I think this would excel really great on like 2 speeds on a life set in terms of just survivability. You're not there to really end the game quickly. That's another thing to note about this monster. It doesn't end the game quickly. This thing has no AoE. Don't plan for a quick game with this monster. This monster is not a quick monster. It doesn't get the job done like that. It's there to take its time. It's a lazy monster. At some point though, it's pretty much hard to kill this thing if you can control the situation all the time. And if you have like a buffer or something, it just makes the game faster. If you have a buffer like on your team, like something that gives double damage, the game will go faster for you in terms of just wiping out like one at a time. This guy's very great at single target damage. He has got a spammable 65 damage, 28 stamina move. The game will go faster. I promise you. Especially if you have, like, if you're running a level 9 rune, in all honesty, if you're running that level 9, if you're running a strength rune, it's a level 9 strength rune, and you're running the 2 speeds, you're good to go, in all honesty. And you have, like, double damage with you, too. The game goes faster. Just assume that's the case. Power Nap. Heals by 20%, gains regeneration, loses all negative effects, requires a cooldown. This is a 30 stamina move, 3-turn cooldown, removes own debuffs, life regeneration by 20%, life heal by 20%. So you initially regain 20% after you've used this move, and you get continuous life regen for 3 turns. And you remove your own debuffs. Now, this is a pretty relevant move. You have to run this move on any set given. It's weird because this is an attack. This is your attacking monster. It's probably outside this thing is your attacking monster. And I keep recommending moves that don't really seem to do the heaviest damage. But again, keep in mind, this thing isn't designed to be a fast sweeper. You may never, in all honesty, if your team is really spot on and denying and you never take any damage, this move is only relevant in the case of the event you do take damage. It's meant to patch him up, in all honesty, right away. And he can't be burned to death. There's a lot of great things about this move. You could say the immunity to possession is pointless at this point because you have this move that it's a self move and you don't need to. If you're ever possessed, you could have just used this move if it was immune to stun. You can run that argument, but in all honesty, I still think immunity to possession is still relevant in terms of just if you ever put this thing on defense. Again, if you so desire to put this thing on defense, I think it's still a relevant trait to have. Again, just because AIs don't always choose the right move. So if it does this move, I mean, like, it's true, it has the chance of doing this move, but it also has the chance to do this move. I'll do it tomorrow. So I think that's still a huge protection thing to make sure it doesn't actually use this move on its allies. I think that's pretty relevant. But Power Nap pretty much gets you out of situations. Let's say you're just DOT'd to death. Let's say you're just under a bunch of DOT. This move can save you from DOT damage, in all honesty. Just cleans it up right away. You're in a pretty good spot if you have this move up and you're currently on fire, bleeding, and or poisoned. Just stacked up on DOT damage. Use this to clean it up. It's nice. Not my job. Deals heavy special damage. May stun target. Requires a cooldown of 2 turns. 28 stamina. 50 damage. This is his stun move. It's his only control move in terms of deny. Besides, I'll do it tomorrow, of course. But this is his natural form of deny. In terms of a stun, freezing, or possession, he can stun something. This is irrelevant to Earth monsters, in all honesty, but you use it on the thing that's not immune to stun, obviously. So it can be situational at best, but if you're fighting a tomb, lots of people like to run a tomb on defense a lot. So this is a valid move to run. Again, you just stun things that you don't want moving. That's basically the point of this move. I don't know how often you'll actually use it. In all honesty, I see people using 5 more minutes as their main choice, a spammable move to use all the time. But you just use this in a situation where you need something stunned. I do recommend this move. It's pretty valid. 5 more minutes deals very heavy special damage, 65 damage, 0 turn cooldown, 28 stamina. This is his spammable move. This is basically he's swinging a broadsword right now at enemies. He's just swinging this giant sword and it's just like, he does it repeatedly. This is his spammable move. This is his spam heavy move. This is like in Smash Brothers. He's using his smash attack. He's using it all the time. It's spammable. 65 damage is pretty high. It's pretty close to 70 damage, so that's relevant. This thing does not hit lightly. Again, remember back when I said the slacking thing? Yeah, this thing doesn't hit lightly. He has the ability to spam damage. And essentially, this makes up. In all honesty, if you have used this move before, this in terms of damage output, this makes up for the last turn. Since you can just spam it, it's pretty heavy damage. Honestly, this is your damage move. This is what makes most of your damage rune. In all honesty, if you do put a damage rune on this monster, it makes the most out of that rune. If you run 2 strength runes, this will make the most out of those 2 strength runes. That's an alright. If you do want to do 2 strength runes, you can. But I honestly don't think it's the optimal build. I want to build this as a normal attacker, personally. So now that we're done with all the moves, I'm just going to give you a clear recommendation real quick. I'd have you run Power Nap, I'd have you run Not My Job, I have you run 5 more minutes, and I have you run I'll Do It Tomorrow. Why would I recommend this list specifically? I'll Do It Tomorrow resets all cooldowns. That's enough said. It's powerful. You can use this on a tomb. You can use this on the Denier. Whatever you need to not do anything bad to you. You use this move, bam. Instant cooldown reduction. I mean, everyone's cooldowns are started at the beginning. They're not even used. They're just go down. They have to wait. You have no idea how powerful that is. So that's really great. That's relevant. This doesn't work. In all honesty, don't bring this guy in situations where they're not running any cooldown monsters, like in terms like Discopolis or Jabeline. Don't bring it into any of those fights, but everything else is pretty relevant. It's like a mini Timeron, in all honesty. It's a Timeron thing. That's actually one of the partners I recommend you run with, too. It's not a bad idea. Power Nap. You run Power Nap because it's your regeneration. It's meant to keep you out there. In all honesty, this monster wasn't really designed to sweep right away. This isn't a sweeping monster. It's weird because it is your attacking monster, but that's not how the game is normally played. You can run 2 damage on it, in all honesty, or you can run the extra guy build. I will say if you run the extra guy build, you just increase everything. That's not a bad thing for this monster. You make it the speed side alright. You make the life runes pretty great too. And you take advantage of the strength rune. That's one of the rune sets you can take advantage of this. Like the extra guy build and or the life and 2 speeds, especially for it'll take it more advantage. I mean you get more out of it. You see what I'm saying? You pretty much run this on the damage set too. Again, this is his recovery move. It's just when you're in a pickle, in all honesty, and you're in a situation where you're not fighting super effective damage. In all honesty, this cleans up natural damage, personally. Because you can just use this move next, Not My Job, to stun anything. You can stun anything that you don't want to bother you at the moment. This is only valid for things that aren't immune to stun, obviously, but I think it's still valid. It keeps damage off you while you recover your life. Since you're running the 2 speed runes, you can get more turns in, or at least you move at a normal pace. So after 3 turns, this comes up again. That's all right. By the time this comes up again, you'll be ready to use it again. You do have to be in a good spot and all that jazz. So yeah, these 2 combo nice together. And 5 more minutes is your bread and butter attack. It's just damage. It's your main form of damage. You just go around slapping things or hitting things with a broadsword, whatever it may be. This is your damage move. That's all I have to say about that. This is the move that you use for. You just use it. It's just damage. This is your attacker to begin with, so this is pretty relevant. Partners. Highly recommend Timeron for this one. I don't really use Timeron all that much, but this is a screaming just Timeron. Use Timeron with this thing. It's very relevant. Essentially, you can just keep us. You can just at some point you just keep all monsters from doing their stuff. It's annoying when the Timeron can just AOE cooldown reduction. People usually run full speedruns on it anyway, and by the time it gets it again, it can reset all cooldowns. Sometimes it's not fast enough by the time it actually gets that again. A monster could have its deny up or something like that, or a move that's on a 2-turn cooldown. You can essentially use Pigredo to reset that, continue to reset those cooldowns, just to keep them from doing anything but spammable damage. That's all they can do at this point, essentially. That's the number one partner I highly recommend with Pigredo is Timeron. You should also be thinking about running the damage reduction with Timeron. The aging move, the aging one, you run it with this. If you're using Pigredo, you run it with that move. There's no no, but what about no? You run that move. Run that move. You take less damage, and you're just out there longer, and you can use space time. You pretty much take no damage anyway. It's ridiculous. you run space time. Do run space time, because if they're doing really if they're doing less natural damage to you, and they can't really do double damage because you've set all their cooldowns, right? Normal damage doesn't do anything. You're pretty much good. You don't have anything to worry about. The only problem with that is probably squishy. Again, the squishy. You don't really use this monster with squishy team war situations like common and uncommon. Use it in ranked up rares. And epic wars where you have a pretty alright epic leveled up and all that jazz, and legendary wars that you usually manually use in those situations. But I digress. Yeah, that you still do run. You run Timeron with just run the age move. Trust me, you won't take much damage. You're all good to go. And even if they were to stun you, even if they stun Pigredo, it doesn't matter. The damage they do are very little. They're not doing much damage to you. You gotta realize that. It's just great. Timeron is his best partner in terms of just like for sure partners you totally need to run. Timeron is one of the best partners you could run for it. Going back to more partners for this thing. Buffers, you could use a buffer with this monster. For epic monsters, let's say you're in an epic war, you can use you can use Wolfington to AoE double damage you. Give you that double damage. I'm pretty sure there's another double damage giver. I think Master Fong does that too. I think he gives you stamina regen too, but I can't remember on the top of my head. This is just for war situations. Let's say you're in an epic war and stuff like that. I'm just giving you ideas in terms of partners. If you're running water, you can run. Well, this isn't a buffer, but he's more so a denier. So you can have more deny presence. If you wanted to, you can run for him more deny presence. Excuse me. Any buffer really. I would say, in all honesty, in terms of other partners you could run with this thing, you could run Scribe. He makes you immune to all dark damage. I think that's relevant. Again, you don't want this thing to take super effective hits. Dark monsters is this guy's bane, so if you have Scribe with you, if you can make them all immune to dark damage, that's great for you. You're in a good situation in that point of the game. Other ideas, maybe for rare monsters, personally, I'd have you run, I personally you either run Slayantar. Slayantar's, right now at the moment, I think he's the only one that does AoE double damage, removes negative effects. In terms of rare monsters, this guy, I love using this monster personally. This is a great monster for Pigredo, in terms of just, again, if you're in a war situation where you have to use rare. I think this is the only monster I don't see in the sale shop. This is honestly the only one, and that's a shame. Hedgie's pretty great. Hedgie can make your monster fast, especially ranked up. I have this guy ranked up at least to 3 or 2 to 3 or something like that, and it runs pretty well, in all honesty. You can make monsters slow, he can make your monsters fast. Pretty controlling monster, and he can heal. I'd say he's pretty relevant. He's pretty nice if you're in that situation. We're not going to talk about commons and uncommons, it's just not relevant of a situation. Rune sets. Personally, the rune sets vary with this monster. You can build the extra guy build to take advantage of all the stats. I personally would I'd totally run 2 speed runes on this thing, just so I can get more turns in, so I can get my cooldowns on my moves all good. I think the key of this monster isn't to get the game done quickly. You need to realize that, and when you do, you'll enjoy this monster a whole lot more. In all honesty, if you put this thing in a very sturdy comp, you're going to be all right. If you're running a Demise and a Plymouth, that'll also work for you really nicely. Just in terms of Demise can give you that double damage. Plymouth can set up regeneration right away, and you're just good the whole game. Pretty constant regen. There's a lot of things to say about this monster, I think, just in terms of partners. But going back to the rune sets, I'd personally run 2 speeds and the choice of a strength or life rune. That's the recommendation I give you guys. Just again, keep in mind the goal of this monster isn't to win the game right away. This guy is not meant to win the game right away. Get that through your head, please. I don't mean that in a mean way, but just I hope I can get you to understand that this thing isn't designed to win the game right away. Is it the most efficient way to play Team Wars? No, but is it a way to? Is it still a way to win a war battle? Yeah, it's still a way to win war battle. You don't necessarily need double. You don't necessarily need to end the game right away. That's just. The sweeping method is the double damage sweep method is usually the best method to clear a game right away, but you don't necessarily need that to win a game. You can do a variety of things to win a game. You could do DOT damage, you could do insta death, you can build different comps depending on who you're fighting. You pick and choose your fights in all honesty, and you can choose how you want to approach that fight. And all that jazz. So that is it for this video on Pigredo. Let me know what you think about this monster. I want to know your opinions and or what's your favorite 7th Sin monster. Let me know in the comments below. I'm DibtheAwesome. I'll get you guys later.